The views and opinions expressed on this program are not those of Norfolk State University or WNSB-FM. Thank you for listening. 981, your choice for hip-hop and R&B soul. Hello there. Yes, Khilo is here, and it is a brand new episode of Hampton Roads Voices. Woo-hoo! And last week we had such a good time. We talked about, what did we talk about last week? Oh, we talked about the importance of mentorship, of course. And then this week, right now, today, we're talking about Entrepreneurship 101. All right. So we're still in the first month of the year, and it's still a brand new year. You know, we're not saying Happy New Year anymore, but it is still very much a new year. And I know on a lot of people's goals list or resolutions list, they wanted to start a business this year. And what better way to get started than to listen to Hampton Roads Voices this particular episode. Okay. So, of course, we always want you to call in and voice your opinions, ask us the questions that you really need answered by our special guest experts. And you can do that by calling the phone number 757-823-9110, 823-9110, to get those questions in. And it wouldn't be Hampton Roads Voices if we didn't hear your voice or if we didn't have special guest experts. Okay, so we have two here today. We have Professor Sally Sledge. She is the director of the Hodge Institute for Entrepreneurship. That is our very own, and by our, I mean Norfolk State University's very own entrepreneurship center. Okay. And then, she's also a professor here in the School of Business, department here in Norfolk State. And we also have David Nygaard. He's the owner of David Nygaard Custom Jewelry. That's the new name, but it is, currently the fine jewelry, right? Yep. And he's also a former entrepreneurship professor at Chowan University. Okay, so we have two teachers here of entrepreneurship, and they're going to do that. They're going to teach you the way to go, the steps to take, where you can get money, so forth and so on. That number again is 757-823-9110. So we're going to do a quick intro, and then we're going to take a break so you can get to know our special guest experts a little bit better. So ladies first, Professor Sledge, tell us a little bit about what you do in relation to entrepreneurship.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Yes, no worries.
Nice to be back. I know I was here last year and had a lot of fun, and looking forward to this session as well. We in the School of Business are doing a lot of exciting things with the Entrepreneurship Center. We have some programs geared towards students, such as the business plan competition, which we will be having later this spring. We also bring in some guest speakers. We had some fabulous guest speakers last semester from McDonald's, local franchisees who talked about owning a business. And then we'll do some classes for students who may be entrepreneurship majors or may just be interested in entrepreneurship. We also do workshops. Sometimes we invite the public to come in to do a special workshop. So we've got a lot of things going on, and we're eager to serve the needs of our students and our community as far as entrepreneurship goes.
Awesome. And then moving on to our other special guest expert today, David Nygaard. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do in your journey regarding entrepreneurship?
Sure. I actually have a passion about entrepreneurship. I took over my mom's business and started my own business. And then eventually I was able to grow my single store to 7 stores. I was named the Virginia Business of the Year. Then I got to a bank recruited my business. They loved me. And then when they went bankrupt, they took me right along for the ride. So I got to see the business failure. I've seen both sides of the coin. I've been a part of the William & Mary Entrepreneurship Center. I've been guest speaker there. I've taught at Chowan University. And I might have to offer my speaking over at Norfolk State. So
we would love that.
Yes, took the words right out of my mouth, Professor. We would love that. So, yes, and in regards to your business kind of taking not a landslide, but kind of going the other way. I was watching Shark Tank at one time, and one of the sharks said, I can't remember which one, but they said that they don't want to invest in a business that has never failed, at least once. So, and I've heard that with other entrepreneurs too. Like, you really haven't been in entrepreneurship unless you have failed once. So I think that's a great thing to add, failure.
That's true.
In business. So yes, of course, 823-9110, 823-9110. That is the number to call. Make sure, you get your calls in. And I'm going to throw out this question for you, Hampton Roads. What has been the hardest part about being an entrepreneur? If you are in business right now, rather it's going well, rather it's going not so well. I want to know for you, what is the hardest part about being an entrepreneur? Your testimony can really help some prospective entrepreneurs that are listening, okay? 823-9110. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to hop into this conversation. Entrepreneurship 101, Hampton Roads Voices is Hot 91. Hot 91, your choice for hip hop and R&B soul. Khilo is here with a brand new episode of Hampton Roads Voices. Tonight's episode is entitled Entrepreneurship 101. Woohoo! You want to start that business, or you already have a business and you kind of want to maintain it. You can never stop learning, okay? So we have two special guests here today that are going to help you on your entrepreneurship journey. We have David Nygaard here. He is the owner of David Nygaard Custom Jewelry, and also he is a former entrepreneurship professor at Chowan University. And we have Professor Sally Sledge here. She is the director of Hodge Institute for Entrepreneurship and also a professor here at Norfolk State University. Hello, guys.
Good evening.
Are we ready to do this? Yes, we are.
Yes,
Okay.
we are.
Yes. So I had threw out a question to you, Hampton Roads, and I want you to give me a call to answer it. What has been the hardest part about being an entrepreneur? 823-9110, 823-9110. And we do have a phone call. Can you hear?
Yep, I got it.
Hi, 91, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with?
Yeah, this is Rose, man.
I'm sorry.
This is Rose. My name is Rose, man. I go by Rose, man.
Okay. Where's your question, comment, or concern?
Well, I've been struggling with having everything organized, maybe because I haven't had a secretary and a manager, and that's really where my challenges lies at, because my business is doing well, and it would do even better if I had those things, or maybe some other things down packed and under my belt and understood. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. So organization, that has been your biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Well, thank you for sharing that testimony.
What would you suggest as far as, as that goes, and what should I look for in a manager or a secretary if I was to look for one?
Can I just ask, what kind of business are you in?
I do. I'm an artist. I work with my hands. I do different paintings, and I make jewelry. I make handmade jewelry out of
Oh, a competitor, huh?
yeah.
No, that's
unfortunately,
okay.
But no, man. But I'm pretty sure you got yours. You really are further along than I am. I'm doing handmade copper jewelry and stone.
Oh, that's cool. I'd love to see your work. Well, I'll tell you what. First of all, don't feel bad if you're disorganized. Let me tell you something. Most entrepreneurs are very disorganized, because you have to be kind of a creative thinker. So don't beat yourself up. But I would say one of the earliest people to help you stay organized would be a good bookkeeper. And you could find that a bookkeeper can probably do some other areas of organization that are just probably burdensome. So I might look for a good bookkeeper, a bookkeeping service, and I think you could probably do that pretty well.
Okay, so I need to find a bookkeeper. And that will pretty much aid those situations in those areas that I'm suffering in right now.
Yeah, because I think what they do is they would help you with basically the financial organization is what you're going to need, right? Because you have to do reports for the city and for the state. You got to do those monthly. The bookkeeper's going to be able to help you do those kinds of reports, the annual reports that you need for personal property and all that for the city. So I'd say a bookkeeper, you're looking at probably $20, $25 an hour. And they can often help you organize other aspects of your office.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you for calling in.
And
Thank
I can
you.
add to that if you like.
Please do.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. I would suggest getting in touch with an organization that offers free mentoring. Maybe you guys covered this last week on your mentoring show, but there's a group out there called the Society Corps of Retired Executives, known as SCORE, and they are a national group that has a local chapter here in Norfolk, and I know they also do some meetings in Virginia Beach, where they will pair you with a mentor who is perhaps in the same business or similar business to you. And this person, actually, I think when you first make an appointment, they require you to do some homework. They have like a form that you have to fill out and discuss your business. And then they'll meet with you for free and give you tips and pointers, and they might be able to uncover some areas that you could work on that would help you with time management, or, I'm not sure what the specific issue is, but certainly getting an outsider opinion on how you might improve your efficiency would be a really good idea. So,
what was the name of the organization?
Okay, their website is SCORE, like score a goal, SCORE.org, and you just go in there and I think you type in your zip code, and they give you like the local chapter. And I know I've spoken to some of their mentors. They're very eager to help, and they have a lot of availability, whether you live on the peninsula or the south side.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all's help. Y'all have a blessed weekend.
You too. Good luck on your business.
Thank you. Peace.
And as you guys are calling, of course, to get your entrepreneurship help, we just want to ask you that you don't shout out your business, because if you want to do that, you have to pay for underwriting here on this station. Just please keep it very vague, if you will, and don't specifically name the name of your business. Okay, we have one more call. Hi, 921, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with?
Yeah, hi, this is Terry.
Hi, Terry. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm hanging there. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for listening. What's your question, comment, or concern?
All right, my question is, and my concern is, keeping employees. I seem to have a problem with employees. It seems that one thing I learned is hiring family and friends is a bad mixture. But also being able to have employees that want to dedicate themselves to the job and do a good job. I seem to have problems holding on to employees. No matter how much I pay them, it seems they get timid, or they get to seem that they're entitled. So I'm trying to figure out, what can I do to lure good employees?
A tricky one.
That's always a tough question. Employees are tough.
Did you tell us your business? I'm sorry.
I'm a building contractor.
Okay. What about going through, even though it may be more expensive, a third party to do the hiring? So you're almost using an outsourcing company to vet the people that might work for you. Have you thought about anything like that?
Well, yeah, I have. I have tried several things. I have put ads in the paper. I have a bookkeeper, and I have a accountant. They have referred me to certain websites that have offer employees, but it seems that they always start off good, but to get the consistency out of them and to get them to be more dedicated to the job, like showing up day after day, no matter how much you pay them, it seems like there's just a problem with them coming to work and working consistently.
One of the things that I often looked at was different kind of creative ways to compensate. And I think sometimes compensation plans can maybe address that. So, for instance, very, very simple. If you're a salesperson, there's a component that's a salary, but then there's a bonus, based on your sales. In your case, I'm not sure how we could do that, but I'd see if there's some type of a component that you could compensate based on performance, and that way they do have some motivation. I think also sometimes it's good to have some creative ways of compensation. And so one of the things we found in my business is we had employees start, and we would do educational benefits for them. We would give them training in terms of jewelry specific, but then we also did some things that are creative, like a clothing allowance. And let me tell you something. When you start helping them with a clothing allowance, they just love that. So what I found is, in our case, is they would come in very motivated, very excited with their showing off their new clothes, and so just kind of made it more exciting for them to come to work. So sometimes just being creative in how you compensate may help. Again, I don't know really the details of your business, but I think I'd look at the creative ways to compensate.
Okay, well, that's one area that I'll try to address, even though I have tried those several avenues, like giving them advance pay or giving them time. If they work 8 hours, I pay them for 10. If they do a good job, I'll pay them extra pay or stuff like that, and they seem to perform. It seems like like I said, they feel like they're entitled, or they feel like they're only going to go so far before they feel like they just want to quit, basically, or just sit down and relax, or just get a little bit more complacent with the work. Like if they have a job that needs to be done at 8, and then in 8 hours, and then I have to go back behind them and do the job all over again because they're not going to do the job the way you would do it.
Right.
So it seems like it's a stretch because I have to pay them, and then I have to go back and do the work again.
So can I ask you a question? Do you know the reasons why they are quitting?
It's not that they're quitting. It's pretty much I let them go because anytime I have to go behind you and do that's double work, and I got to pay you, and then sometimes I'll buy lunch, or sometimes I'll pick them up and drop them off, or give them early pay and stuff like that, and it just seems like they just get comfortable.
Gotcha.
Maybe. Well, okay. So, are they signing a contract before they actually go on the job? It sounds like they don't know the expectations you have of them, and so they're falling down because they're not aware, of deadlines, or maybe I'm not sure, but maybe consider looking at a competitor who has good employees, and what is that person doing to keep these people around and performing like they should?
Well, I run into competitors, and they seem to have the same problem. They might have one good employee, like I do. I got one good employee, but then he just passed not too long ago, so I'm against the ropes now. But it seems like I know a lot of contractors, and I work for a lot of companies, retail and commercial. And it seems like it's just they get complacent. Like they'll start off good, but then the end result is that they won't do the job the way I would do it or the way it would be done. I give them certain descriptions or instructions on how to do the job, and then they'll find a way to add their method to it. And that's not the way it goes, because if the owner or whatever wants the job done a certain way, I have to do it that way. I'm not allowed to do it my way or their way. So, like I said, it's very complicated, and I'm seeming to have a workload that's thrown on my back, and I'm shouldering a lot. But I don't mind the money, good. But I'd just like to have someone that's dependable and reliable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, understandable.
The only other thing that comes to mind is maybe some kind of apprenticeship program where you take somebody right out of high school. Or I'm thinking we have a lot of wonderful college students that love internships over the summer. They may not stay with you forever, but some of these people are very eager and they want a good reference. So maybe getting a young person that you can take on who agrees to stay for a certain amount of time, and you treat them as an apprentice, that might be a strategy.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Somebody have mentioned that to me before, too.
Okay.
All right. Okay, well, you're a genius.
Best of luck to you in your business.
All right, thanks again.
No worries. Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye. Bye. We want to continue to hear your voice. Hampton Road, 757-823-9110. What has been the hardest aspect of being an entrepreneur? And I have a new question. What has been the best aspect of being an entrepreneur? What do you love about owning and running your very own business? 823-9110. It is Hampton Roads Voices Entrepreneurship 101. We have not got into the conversation yet. We have with you, but we still have some questions to answer. So we're going to take a quick break, get some music in, and then when we return, we have some of the questions that I know that you have, like the difference between different types of businesses. What's the first thing that you need to get into business? So forth and so on. Make sure you keep it locked. It's Entrepreneurship 101, Hampton Roads Voices on Hot 91. Hot 91, your choice for hip hop and R&B soul. Hampton Roads Voices live right now with a brand new episode entitled Entrepreneurship 101. Khilo, of course, is here. Professor Sally Sledge, the director of the Hodge Institute for Entrepreneurship right here on Norfolk State University's campus. And David Nygaard, he's the owner of his very own jewelry business and also a former entrepreneurship professor at Chowan University. So they both are very much so experts at this thing here. Okay, so let's hop into the real conversation. And thank you for our callers. And we want to continue those calls, 757-823-9110. So a person has come to the conclusion, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to start that business. I'm going to go ahead and get it started. Okay, now what? Once they have made up their mind that that's what they're going to do, what's next? What should be the first step towards getting the ball rolling in entrepreneurship?
Well, I think one of the things you have to do is look at your opportunities that are before you. So maybe you have a friend or family member that's already in business, so maybe you can kind of come alongside. Maybe you have a passion or a hobby. We just were talking about somebody who started something with kombucha. Mm-hmm. Maybe you have a passion or a hobby. I know that a lot of guys these breweries that open up have started with home brewers who had this passion for home brewing, and they turned it into a business. So I think you kind of have to look at yourself, take some self-reflection, and decide, where's my passion? And then kind of look at, okay, who around me, what kinds of things are around me that I can go into business and do?
Okay. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You have to have a passion, you have to have a purpose, and then comes mission and vision. But in addition to that, I think if you want people to take you seriously, once you have developed that passion, you need a business plan. And this is where you go and you do your homework, and there's lots of great softwares out there, that many of which are free, where you can write a business plan, usually 10-plus page document that you're sitting down and you're saying, okay, this is what we're going to do about employees. This is what we're going to do about marketing. This is what we're going to do about accounting. This is how we're going to have a web presence. This is where our location's going to be. This is how we're going to finance, so forth and so on. So your ideas are on paper, and they're not set in stone, but at least you have thought of these major aspects of a business, and then others will start to either come on board or fund you, or at least know your idea rather than you just kind of speaking into the air. You have something concrete on paper. So I think the passion is first, the idea, and then follow it up with your homework, your plan, and then you can really start talking to people and convincing them this is something that really is going to happen.
And we're going to get into business plans in more depth a little bit later, but yeah, that has been proven in the natural, in some spiritual texts, religious texts. Write it down, because if you write it down, then you have it's bound to happen. It's bound to manifest itself. We do have a phone call. Let's get to it. Hi, 91, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with? Hello there. Hi, 91, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with? Hello? Okay. Call back, 757-823-9110. I want to know what has been the best aspect of being an entrepreneur, or the worst part about being the entrepreneur for you, because your story can help someone else who's listening. 823-9110. All right, so the most popular question is, what kind of business should I get into? Because if you start doing your research, like Professor has said and David has said, then you'll see that there are different types of businesses out there. So can you tell us the different businesses there are, and what are the differences between those?
Well, a lot of people, I think one of the easiest ways to go into business to start would be like a service industry, where you're providing a service for somebody and they're paying you. So, and again, going back into like the hobby kind of thing, what kind of service can you do, render to somebody, and then get that? Another type of business might be like a retail business, where you're actually selling a product. Maybe, I think we had an artist that was talking earlier. Mm-hmm. So he's making something and he's selling it. So that's another type of business. So I think you have to kind of decide there. And then of course the next question is then, what kind of legal structure, I think, was kind of where you were headed.
Yeah, legal
was
structure.
The legal structure, right? Whether you want to go with a C Corp or an S Corp or an LLC, or a partnership or a proprietorship, or, all right, Professor, are there any others that I missed? Proprietorship, partnership?
Nonprofit.
Nonprofit, 501c3. Mm-hmm. Educational nonprofit is another one, I think, 501c4 maybe. Anyway. So there's a lot of different organizations there. Probably the nonprofit is not the direction, but
Probably not.
but because most people want to go into business
For profit.
for a profit,
Right.
But going into that, sometimes there are grants and there's money to be had with nonprofits that you can then submit a proposal for a grant. That grant and I've seen kind of a hybrid where you have a nonprofit working alongside a profit business, and so there's some aspects of the a business plan, let's say, that you can accomplish with a nonprofit, and then some that you have to have a profit business. And so there's some interactions there. So question, of course, is the S corporation, C corporation. So, Professor, do you want to talk a little bit about those organizations? Do you want to let them know what the
Yeah. I'll just talk
structures are?
briefly. I mean, in class the other day, in my entrepreneurship class, there's a great statistic out there that shows about 70% of all businesses in the U.S. are sole proprietorships, meaning they're run and owned by a single person. Yet, when you look at the revenues coming in from business, it's almost the opposite. About 70% of revenues come from large corporations. So while we don't talk about the small businesses as much, they really do make up the lion's share of businesses in the U.S. Now, the thing is, most of those are probably done sort of on the side. They're not the full-time job of the sole proprietor, but they do bring a lot of satisfaction and, income perhaps to the business owner. So most books will tell you if you have a passion, if you have an idea, if you have a thought, don't quit your day job, but rather, do it on the weekends, do it in the evenings, see if it works, and then if it turns into your full-time job, all the better. If it doesn't, it can still be your hobby. I actually have a tutoring business that I do on the side. Ethically, I don't take any of my students as people that I would tutor, but my tutoring business is active in the summer when I'm not teaching or perhaps on school breaks. But it's just a very small business that I enjoy, and I do, by myself as a sole proprietorship. And that's really, I think, the easiest way to start. If you're not into managing others, if you're not into payroll, start as a sole proprietor if at all possible, and kind of go from there.
Absolutely. I think the sole proprietor is a great way to just kind of start. You get your toe in the water. And the thing is that a lot of times you can incur losses on those as a proprietor that will help you with the taxes. So you kind of are making income, but you've got other things that you can deduct. So you maybe your cell phone bill. So a lot of people go into business so that they can then deduct some of these kinds of expenses. But if you are in that kind of a business, you have to have a profit. You can't lose. I think it's 3 years in a row. Otherwise, the government automatically turns you into something like a C corp or there's a requirement there that you can't, or maybe you're not allowed to deduct. I'm not sure, but you're not allowed to. There's a requirement that you can't lose money, but for so many years on your sole proprietor business.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I know LLCs are pretty popular.
My favorite is an
Is
LLC.
it? Tell me why. I know when people want to go into business, they're not talking about sole proprietorships. They're talking about LLCs.
Yes.
Why?
Well, I liked them because first of all, you can. So an LLC basically flows into your personal tax return with distributions. The nice thing about an LLC versus an S corp we were talking earlier is that an LLC you can have a different year end. So you can kind of pick when do you want your year end to be, your 12-month year end. An LLC, you have managing members and then you have limited members. And you can creatively structure an LLC to protect key aspects and key assets that you have to your business. And so that's kind of a fun way to go. You can have limited partners that have a lot of ownership and managing partners that have very little ownership, and yet they have basic control over the entity. So for me, I mean, I went through a catastrophic business failure at one point, and as I reemerged, I was under the bank was going after everything that I had, so I couldn't actually own anything to get started again. So I used an LLC, and I had family members as the managing member, and then I had other family members as the limited members. So the limited members don't get to be sued. They get the distributions, and so they can get the income that way. Now, one thing about the LLC, though, you do have to be aware. You can have income. The company can be profitable, but you may not get distributed. So you don't just want to be a limited member of anybody's LLC, because you can end up with a nice poison pill of a tax bill. So if the LLC, say, made $100,000 last year, you might say, I really want that. So let's see, we'll give you 99% ownership of that LLC. Would you want that? Sure. But what if they gave you the $100,000 tax bill, but they didn't give you any distributions in cash?
Now, when you say distributions, you mean like being paid?
Yep.
Gotcha.
I mean being paid. So you get that $100,000 tax bill, but you don't actually have any money. That they didn't actually give you that cash to pay that tax bill. So you have to be careful with that.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, and I would just add, the sole proprietorship is very attractive for an individual who wants to go in business and be in business by themselves, but they are totally responsible for any debts or claims that come against the business. So you do need to be aware of that, and the LLC, I think, is very popular for that reason, because individual assets are pretty much shielded if you set yourself up. And many sole proprietorships turn into LLCs. And I'll put a plug in here for a website. You've probably heard of this, LegalZoom.com. They are very informative for anyone who wants to go in and potentially start a business about the different business structures and advantages and disadvantages. They have a 1-800 number. You don't even have to purchase from them, but they're a very educational website for someone who may not be trained in business or entrepreneurship, but still wants to start a business.
Good to know. 823-9110, 823-9110. If you have any entrepreneurship questions, if you are thinking about starting a business and you're not quite sure where to go, this is what you need to be listening to. If you have any questions, please give us a call, 823-9110. But I have a question for you. What is stopping you from starting your business? Tell me. Call in and spill your guts. What is stopping you from starting the business that you always wanted? 823-9110. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we're going to be talking about, getting investors on board. You need money. Your business needs money. How can you get that? Also, after filing for your business type, find out what kind of certifications you may need, licensing. All of that is coming up next on Hampton Rose Voices Entrepreneurship on Hot 91. On 81, your choice for hip hop and R&B soul. A brand new episode is on and popping right now of Hampton Rose Voices entitled Entrepreneurship 101, and we're having a blast. And we want to hear from you, Hampton Rose. It's called Hampton Rose Voices for a reason. I say that every week. Give us a call, 757-823-9110, 757-823-9110 for your entrepreneurship questions. I know you want to go into business, and I know you have a lot of questions. We're here for you. And by we, I mean myself and our special guest experts, Professor Sally Sledge. She's from right here, Norfolk State University, and the director of Hodge Institute for Entrepreneurship. Good evening. And also we have David Nygaard. He is the owner of his very own jewelry business, an entrepreneur himself. And he was also a former entrepreneurship professor at Chowan University. Okay. So we were talking about the differences of legal structures of businesses, the first steps to do once we get into a business, so forth and so on. So let's get into the expectations. Okay. Now, of course, they are unique based on what type of business one has and, all that type of stuff. But let's try to be as general as possible. Within the first couple of months to the first couple of years of business, what are generally what can they expect, new entrepreneurs?
Well, I think it depends on how much preparation they've done. If they have a service that they're offering that they're very accustomed to and very experienced in, things will go a lot smoother. If it's a brand new concept or brand new idea, there'll be some challenges. And then how many people you have on your team. Obviously, if you have a small team and they work together nicely, there'll be fewer challenges than if you have a large team. But one thing we can say is that, and we know this from study after study after study, the number one reason a business fails is lack of finances, lack of money, lack of capital. So that should be a priority for anybody starting a business, is looking at where the money's coming from and where the money's going. And if there's not enough coming in and too much going out, you're not going to be in business very long. So it's all true. About, and ideally more than one revenue stream, more than one way of getting money so that you're not strapped if one source dries up. So there's lots of different, strategies out there, but that's, I think, paying attention to the money and the numbers is something people sometimes stay away from because it's not their favorite thing to talk about. But if you don't think about it, chances are that will be the downfall of the business.
I'm going to take another side on that. And one of the things that I think that we talked about earlier is if you can do your business on the side and keep your main job active, then many businesses start that way. My mom started that way. We did, so I grew up doing art shows on the weekends and on certain evenings. When we were doing some real estate, we would rehab the apartments. My dad and I would work in the day, regular jobs, and then we would rehab in the evenings. So one of the expectations is that your free time is going to go way down if you are actively starting a small business on the side. You're really going to be losing a lot of that free time. So you really have to kind of plan that. And I think you have to structure so that you can regroup and kind of renew yourself so that you don't burn the candle at both ends.
Okay.
Because that alleviates having to use that immediate capital right away.
Right.
So we're talking about money coming in. Where would that money come from? And a lot of new entrepreneurs say, "I need investors." So let's talk about investors. First of all, is it possible for a new entrepreneur to get an investor? And if so, how so? Generally speaking, because it kind of depends. But
well, I mean, most businesses really just start with the entrepreneur putting his own money. Put your money where your mouth is. And investors are going to be looking at how much money, how much skin have you got in the game? They want to know that you've got something at stake. And so that's a big start. The next step is then your friends and family. People always go out for the friends and family. Now, in the olden days, there were ways, if you went to the bank with a good business plan and a history of success, then you could go and get that business plan financed, at least partially. So you would have, that certainly is one easy way to go. I always believed, kind of an old-fashioned principle, I never wanted to leverage more than half of my assets. And of course, that's very difficult legally, and we were talking about legal structures. And one of the ways I was able to use legal structures was to limit how much I leveraged in any one loan or to any one bank. And so if you can structure that way, and one of the best ways to do that would be like leasing. So you're a young entrepreneur, you need a piece of equipment. Sometimes a leasing company is easier to get that loan. You might pay a little bit extra, but the only claim they don't have a claim to your house, they have a claim to that piece of equipment. So it's very structured debt that kind of limits your exposure, if that makes sense. So I always liked debt that was structured in a way that was assigned to a specific asset. They call it exculpated debt.
Okay.
Good. New word for the day.
We're learning a
sorry
lot.
guys. Yes.
We're learning a lot. Okay.
Yeah, and my 2 cents on this one is be creative. I mean, there's a lot of social media opportunities out there, and I think that's another thing people, and most young entrepreneurs would be savvy on this. The website, the social media presence, you can't ignore that.
Oh,
these
GoFundMe's.
days.
Yeah, there's a lot of those.
GoFundMe pages are a great way for, what do they call it, micro investors or micropreneurs, people that really, maybe they only need $1,000, but the internet, the web, social media has a lot of opportunities out there that if you don't want to go through the formal channels of traditional bank or credit union. And then there's also maybe some, I know this sounds crazy, but some contests or some unique ways to get funding. Like an Oprah contest, for example. I mean, sometimes there's some things out there that you might qualify for. So luckily, it's all at the tip of your fingers with a Google search, and there's so much out there. You just have to be willing to put in the time. And I think that's actually one thing to suggest to entrepreneurs is you're so busy working the business, sometimes you don't have time for future planning or the R&D, but you have to set aside, and David maybe can speak to this a little bit better, but X number of % of your hours per week need to be devoted to either research, competitor analysis, future planning, things that you tend to put off but you really shouldn't, because otherwise there's no one steering the ship. The business is just going, and it may be going in the right direction, but it may be going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, we used to call that work. You need to work in your business, but you really need to work on your business. We used to talk about the lumberjack who would go out and chop down trees, and but each day he was chopping down fewer and fewer trees because he never had time to sharpen his blade. And so you really need to work on that business and not in the business. So that's a very critical point.
He was chopping down fewer trees because he never took the time to sharpen his blade. I like that. 823-9110, 823-9110. We want to hear from you. What is the best part about being an entrepreneur? What are the joys and the rewards that you are finding, even in the hard work of being an entrepreneur? What are the good things that you're finding joy in about owning your own business? 823-9110. Now, I think we already answered that. How can new businesses get some capital, some funds? You guys answered that already. But,
there were some other things we were talking about.
Please.
A lot of cities will offer entrepreneurs funding if you're going to bring your business to them. It's not a lot of money, but it can be helpful. I like to avoid the SBA. A lot of people talk about the SBA, but I just don't really feel that the SBA, Small Business Administration, is a very effective way to raise funds. They really tie everything up, and in terms of the guarantee of the loan. And in my experience, a lot of banks, if they saw an SBA, they tended to be more likely to call that loan to get the money back because they knew the government would pay it back. So I tended to not do the SBA, but there are things like the minority business councils. In Virginia Beach, I know that they've got a minority business council, and one of the directives is that they're going to redo the libraries, and they're looking for minority businesses to receive the grants and the funding to refurbish a lot of the libraries. So talking about grants and things like that, those are some ways to get some funding that you wouldn't
very
normally
interesting. Yeah, so the city will pay like a building contractor or somebody like that to refurbish the library.
Yeah, and then they will set aside that contract for a minority business.
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, awesome. All right, so in addition to filing our business type, we have figured out we want to do an LLC, or we want to do a corporation, or we want to do a sole proprietorship. Once that is all finished and good to go, are there any additional paperwork that we should file as far as certification or licensing or, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Or are we just good to go?
Oh, no. Well, it depends what you're doing.
Right.
So, for instance, if you are leasing a space for your business, there are occupational permits that you have to have. You have, if you have construction, there's going to be some construction permits. I was talking the other day. I was building a store, and when you bring in the store up to code, sometimes the code changes. So in my case, we had a second floor that we had to build a handicap accessible bathroom in to the tune of about $20,000. And there was no elevator in that particular building. So nobody ever used the bathroom, but we were required to build it. So there's going to be some requirements that the federal government has, state and local government will have, but you definitely have occupancy permits. You're going to have to go through building codes and those kinds of inspections. And, of course, your business license. You're going to have to, set aside some money and pay for a business license.
Okay, so I have the filing so I have the LLC that's already filed away, and then I have to go and get a business license.
Yes, you do.
And
yes,
what?
and you have to pay taxes or registration fees every year on that. It has to be a current license.
Huh. Interesting.
So when you do your LLC,
Uh-huh.
what is the? Do you remember what the fee is?
It's probably $100 to $150. I think.
Yeah, it's a couple $100 to register your LLC year after year after year. And then when you go into the city, you're going to have your, what depends on what type of business you're in, but there are different types of fees associated with your business and your business license.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And you also want to think about, a lot of people are doing these virtual online businesses.
Right, like an online shop or something.
Yeah, exactly. And that can work for like the artist or some people that might be a creative type that are just producing items they want to sell online. So that's a whole nother ball game. But the registrations and licenses for that, I'm not an expert in that area, but obviously you'd want to do your research and be sure you are, legitimately operating and also protecting, I would say, your intellectual property. Like if you have a trademark, if you have a logo, if you have a patent, if you have a name, you don't want anyone else to be using that intellectual property, and you don't want to get in a situation where you're fighting for a domain name. You want to make sure you're kind of like free and clear, and you don't have any, anyone else using the same name or website or other aspects of your business that create a competitive advantage for you. So, again,
It all costs money.
yes, it does.
Yep.
But these are things to think about early on before you make major decisions, because once you decide some of these things, it's hard to change, and you don't want to change the brand of your business. You have a name, you have a reputation, and if you change that midway, that can really hurt you.
Right. Okay. And I'm just all taking it in as I'm thinking about starting my own business as well. All right, we do have a phone call, and we want to keep those phone lines ringing. 757-823-9110. Hi, 91, you're live in the air. Who am I speaking with?
You're speaking to Jadir.
Hi, Jadir. What's your question, comment, or concern?
Well, I just wanted to make a comment. Based on, as the entrepreneur, I learned that you have to be specific and have a target market to market your products to. And you have to do a service, because based on this system that we're in, is that if you find a solution to people's problems, that is the most prevalent way for you to continue to build your business. Is to be a solutionist, is to provide a particular service to a particular market. And as you do that, right, you'll find out that you will increase in revenues, and you'll increase in your business in knowledge, because I've been privileged to be in business of many years, and I find that that's the most important aspect of when you are starting a business, is that you have to have a market that you're going to specifically market to, and the products and the services that are a need, not a want, but a need.
All right. I think that that would kind of keep you in business too, like you just said, making sure that we're continuing to, find those solutions and being a solution to people's problems. Yeah.
That's right. That's one of the best ways for small businesses to increase is to find the need and apply the services and the solutions to that need. And you will always be in business.
That's true.
91.
That's true.
What's up?
Thank you for calling.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Have a great evening.
You too. 823-9110, 823-9110. Find the need. I like that. Find the need.
Yeah. Can I add one thing?
Please do.
It makes me think of that relatively new product out there called Uber.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you might have heard that the taxi cab drivers, I think it was Philadelphia, were trying to prevent Uber from operating in their city because they were obviously taking business away from the taxis. But, this was a great invention that somebody came up with.
Yes.
And obviously it started with an entrepreneur. Another one that comes to mind is the concept of Zip Car. And I think this was actually created by college students.
What's that?
This is a car that you rent by the hour in large cities where it doesn't pay to have your own car. It's too expensive to house the car or pay for it, but you may only need a car for an hour or an afternoon.
Oh, as opposed to instead of renting a car for like a whole day.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot of really cool ideas out there that speak to what our caller just said, is there's find a need and fill it.
Yes.
And if you become the solution to someone's problem, you will always have a business.
Yes, and sometimes that need can be your own need. And like you were saying, the young lady who came up with that drink, kombucha, what is it? Kombucha, yeah. She didn't want to drink. She didn't want to drink alcohol while she was out. So her need was she can drink something instead of water or soda, but it wasn't alcohol. Great tidbit of information there. So we're going to keep this conversation going. We still have some more Hampton Roads Voices to go. Yes, we do. And we want you to be a part of it. So won't you give us a call, 823-9110, 823-9110. If you have any questions, comments, your 2 cents about entrepreneurship, okay? Make sure you keep it locked right here. It's Hot 91. Hot 91, your choice for hip hop and R&B soul. We're having so much fun, and I'm learning myself because I would like to start a business, and I'm, talking to our special guest experts, and that's what you can do as well. 757-823-9110. If you have questions about starting your own business, this episode of Hampton Roads Voices is entitled Entrepreneurship 101. Yay! And how fitting is that name? Because we have 2 professors here. One is a former professor and one is a current professor. Professor Sally Sledge, she is the director of Hodge Institute for Entrepreneurship right here on Norfolk State University's campus. And
Hello.
Hey! And David Nygaard, he is the owner of his own jewelry business and also a former entrepreneurship professor at Chowan University. So they are well equipped to help you out tonight. Okay? So 757-823-9110 is the number, and we're going to go to our phone lines. Hi, 91, you're live on the air. Could you turn down your radio and tell me what your name is?
Okay, my name is Daryl. When?
Hi, Daryl.
Oh, man, I wasn't expecting to talk to you, and I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay. my thing is, I'm a cook. I want to start a catering business. Well, my problem is I don't know how to put a price on myself. I was hoping somebody could give me an idea on that. I mean, I know I cook in restaurants, but do I use that same price, or do I use a different price?
So one more time, what's your question? One more time. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm trying to start me a catering business.
Okay.
More so factor into people who want to cook out in their backyards, but they don't want to do the cooking. I own my own equipment.
Gotcha.
And offering their service, not just to friends, but as a business, starting a business that way.
Okay.
Now, how do I put a price on myself? Do I use the same price that I work with in my restaurant that I work at? I want to get away from the restaurant and start doing my own thing. I don't know if I'm making sense.
You are.
Yeah, you are.
You are.
I want to be my own businessman.
Right. I would say you have to look at the market prices. I don't know who you're going to be competing against, but look at people that are doing the same thing as you and what the market price is. And then also, consider your costs. What does it cost you to put on a given event? And then are you going to have maybe, 5% markup, 10% markup? Obviously, you have to get paid, but you also have to make a profit. So, there's probably some leeway, but there's probably just kind of a limited price that the market will bear, if you will, depending on what you're offering. I'm not sure if you have like super fancy or just kind of, barbecue type.
No, so I'm looking at more down home thing. You use, for example, you are sitting out here, you want to have a cookout for your family and friends or a retirement party. Maybe that's 2 different animals. But instead of you sitting there cooking, now you can sit there and party all you want to. I take care of everything. Understand what I'm saying?
I think that's good. And I think
so you're buying the food, you're providing the You're buying it,
Yes.
you're preparing it right there with them, with your equipment. So
Yes.
what happens if somebody gets burned on your equipment at that party?
Ooh. Okay. Okay. That's right.
Yeah. So we were talking a little earlier about insurance, and we were talking about what happens if the city comes in and they say, hey, the health inspector comes and says, hey, where's your certificate of health, right? We talked
Now,
about.
I am manager. Well, what do you call it? The new thing, the two different concepts. I am manager certified.
Right,
And
but the
it's
question is,
sort of
will that
certificate.
transfer to your new company? It may or may not. So you do have to look at that.
Okay.
Yeah, but so that's like a big question too, because you don't want to have a party and then the health inspector shows up and says, "Hey, he doesn't have the."
Right.
Yeah.
I'm following you on that. That's right. I said, I listen to this here. I've been learning things from you. That's what I was scared to call, but I wanted it as a staff.
Hey, we all got to start somewhere, so
Exactly.
ask away.
Yeah,
We were talking earlier. So then you've got business licenses. You've got.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah.
See, here, for my background, I'm 20 years Navy. I retired from the Navy as a Navy cook.
Oh, that's
and,
great.
I understand that the cooking, that's a given. But I'm just trying to taking me this long here to try to take a stab right out here on my own.
Yeah.
Kind of working with somebody else, making them happy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to try and figure out how to make me happy.
Yeah. Well, I like your idea. I like your idea.
Your idea is very innovative because
So-
somebody may need that when they're, they want to have a cookout, but they don't feel like cooking out.
Exactly.
So are you providing the food as well?
Well, I'm gonna have two doors. You can buy the food, or I buy the food.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, two different doors here. That'll cut down your cost, if you will. And you just renting me and my equipment.
Mm-hmm.
I own my own equipment, and it's certified. I mean, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll guarantee my work. I guarantee my equipment.
I think what David is trying to say is just make sure your paperwork and everything that you need to operate legally is in order.
Right.
So that you can't
Okay.
get shut down. If you're working with food or with your equipment, your insurance and all that stuff, do your research with that stuff first. But I think your original question was how you should price yourself, right?
Exactly. That was the main thing, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I would make sure that when you're pricing yourself, you're pricing your ability to replace your equipment. Just because your equipment's paid for today doesn't mean that it doesn't add into your overall costs. So make sure you put a little extra into your prices so that you can replace equipment as you need to.
Yeah, and I think another suggestion is if you don't have experience in the catering business, take a job or two with a caterer like the one you want to become. And then you have, you can talk about the management, you can talk about the books, you can talk about the business model, and you get some ideas, real world experience in catering. And then also look at competitor pricing. That's pretty easy to do, and you'll quickly figure out where you want to be in terms of low cost, middle of the road, or luxury type catering. And then you maybe be able to offer different options for different prices.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Welcome.
I mean, you put me in the right path.
Yeah.
Hope so.
Call
Okay.
us back when you get started too.
Yeah, we'd love to
wanna
hear how you
barbecue.
do.
Yeah.
Yes.
All righty. Well, thank
I
you
mean,
for.
really, I've been listening to you radio station. It ain't right around the corner here for me, really.
Cool beans.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, and
Thank
good
you.
luck with your business.
And thank you very much.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Let's keep this calls going. 823-9110, 823-9110. And we do have another phone call. Hi, 91, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with? Hi, 91, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, this is Kendrick. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. First off, I want to say kudos to the gentleman before me. Having an idea is where it all starts, so just run with the idea, and good luck to you.
Absolutely.
I wanted to share, I'm a small business owner myself, and I own a business, and I wanted to share that some lessons learned, and it was aimed towards pricing. So I'm kind of glad he asked about advice about pricing.
Mm-hmm.
And just sharing that, because I learned in the very beginning of me starting a business that I wanted to be marketable, so I made my prices low. And in making those prices low, in turn, I was getting business, but then I wasn't able to sustain that. And that goes back to what we said earlier about having enough capital to maintain and sustain your business. So you got to stay relevant, and you have to keep your prices marketable. So market your skill, like you said. Don't doubt yourself. Don't keep it down low. Because what happens is when you start getting out there and you begin to get business, and you want to make your prices the fair market value, you're already known as being the discount person or being very cheap. So when you raise your prices, your customers tend to look at, or who've heard about you, and say, well, that's not what they said you charged before. Because you're known now as being the person that gives low and cheap prices. So be careful when you jump out there in the very beginning of giving too many discounts, too many deals. Make your prices marketable. Learn the market. Learn what's relevant. That was also said before. And see what the rest of the market is doing, so that you know, hey, I'm comparable to what other people are doing who are doing like services in the general area.
Sounds good. Good advice.
Yep,
Yeah.
good advice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. All right. So, how do we determine if our business needs insurance? We were talking about insurance. How do we know if our business actually needs that?
Well, it depends what you're willing to pay out of pocket for if something goes wrong, and what you want to cover.
Okay.
So the gentleman before that called and said he wants to cook, and I said, well, what happens if somebody gets burned on that equipment? Now, we live in a fairly sue-happy society.
Yes.
So somebody's going to be looking for a cash out, right? And so in the case of that gentleman, he was retired from the Navy, and somebody might decide, well, I'm going to go after that retirement check. And he may find himself sending, 20% of his retirement check to somebody because they got burned on his equipment. So that would be an event where you would really want to insure that kind of liability. Same thing with the person at the house, right? The person at the house, if they get burned at their house, they may have some liability. Now, generally, homeowners coverage will cover that, right? We were talking about getting an event space. Sometimes the event space will have the insurance if he's catering, the fellow that's catering. But it is something to look out for. And because if you don't have insurance, then you're on the hook.
Good advice. So do you want to be on the hook or not? I guess that answers
What's your exposure?
that question. All right.
And also you can talk to an insurance agent. I mean, granted, they're going to want you to buy a policy, but I think most of them would want to inform you what insurance is recommended for your given business. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the greatest challenges you have experience in having a business, David, and Miss Sally, you have experience in teaching what business is. So from experience, from what you have heard, what has been the greatest challenges in not only starting in a business, but maintaining it as well?
Well, okay, so I remember not too long ago in class we showed a statistic that 10 years down the road, less than 40% of all businesses are still in business. I think by year 4, it's like 60% typically. So there's something that happens, and I think it may be, other than lack of funding, it's lack of passion, lack of drive. Because as David can speak to this, when you're an entrepreneur, you really need to be available 24/7. You don't have to work 24/7, but gone are the 8-hour work days. Gone are the weekends. The buck stops with you. And if you don't truly have that drive and you have a team around you that also has that same passion and drive, it's going to fizzle. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what we have. We call these people serial entrepreneurs who start a business and maybe it doesn't work, or maybe it does. And then they start another one and another one. And maybe it takes 3 or 4 attempts before you find what really works for you. But I think the biggest challenge is maintaining the passion, maintaining the funding, and then just being prepared for whatever comes next that the environment throws at you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because markets change over time as well. I've seen in the jewelry industry, markets have changed where you have generational patterns and things go up and things go down. And so sometimes you have to reinvent yourself, and you can't be afraid to reinvent yourself. At one point I had 7 stores, and I had a chain, and we were manufacturing overseas and bringing it over, but we were buying inventory and then hoping to sell it. I moved into a different model where we use virtual inventory, and now we're moving into a by appointment. So we use CAD designs to create virtual inventory that we don't have to invest in gold or product, and then we can make exactly what people want. So we let demand drive production as opposed to producing and then trying to push demand. So there's going to be different business models. They're going to emerge over time. And the thing is that, what I learned is that when you never really fail until you quit. Otherwise, you're just still trying, right?
I like that.
Yeah, true.
We do have a phone call. Let's get to it. 181, you're live on the air. Who am I speaking with?
This is Ebony.
Hey, Ebony.
Hi. I was interested in starting a marketing firm, partially because I wanted to help my father's business and help him marketing and stuff. And the question arose, well, would I be an employee of his business, or would I be, a contractor of his business? So, which led me to say, well, I could do this, but, I could have it myself. But then I started to wonder, is this something I should work for another company before I step foot in the marketing business? Or how can you take the baby steps to kind of introduce yourself into the field?
Good question.
Now, are you working for a company now?
No, I'm not. I'm in a totally different field, and I've found that my strengths and my interests are into making a brand, sticking with it, and I've done it through volunteering for groups.
Okay.
And I found it very fulfilling to, get the outcome that I wanted by, that compassion that you guys were talking about earlier.
Sure. Now, are they going to hire you? I heard you say that you were possibly going to work as an employee. Are you talking about working for somebody else?
Well, I could. It was for my father's business, catering that. But they have a very unique vegan style, so I wanted to help them brand that.
Okay, so you're going to work for your dad, and you're going to market, and he's going to help you launch your marketing firm, and he's going to be your first customer, and you're going to market and rebrand his business. Is that right?
Correct.
What a great opportunity.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, great. So then the question is, how much are you going to bill your dad? Right?
Right.
But your dad wants you to succeed. I mean, all dads want their kids to succeed. That's really a wonderful experiment and an opportunity that presents itself. So I probably would set up your own little company and let him be your first client, and don't hesitate to pick up a second client. And you know what? You're going to take this one step at a time, and rebranding, and like any client, he's going to push back, and so you might have to sell your ideas. And you know what? I think that's just a wonderful opportunity. I think that's great.
Okay. So take the baby step into it. I don't necessarily need to switch careers completely.
No, I wouldn't do that necessarily. Okay. But I think I would do it as your own company for your dad, instead of just becoming one of his employees.
Okay.
Unless you want to take over his company.
No.
It sounds like you're more into the branding than the catering. Yeah. And that's going to limit you.
Okay.
Yeah, I
down
agree.
The road.
Yeah, down the road. I think, and probably what will happen is, as you take on clients, you'll get preferences. You'll either like small businesses, or you'll like large businesses. You'll like graphics, or you'll like some other aspect that you'll become a specialist in. But you won't know that until you take on these various clients that give you opportunities to learn what you really enjoy doing.
Okay. And another question: how do I assess market value, or not market value, but market pricing, without being a client? I mean, those prices aren't on people's websites.
Right.
Oh, well, you're going to have to do, you're going to have to ghost and do that. And then mystery shop is another way they do that, where you would go in and just pretend to be.
I think there's in their website called salary.com, where you can put in like your job title.
Yeah, but she's trying to price. I think, don't get me wrong, but I think you're trying to see where your dad's pricing is compared to other people, right?
No, her pricing. So when
My pricing.
according to like marketing, other marketing.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, so we know that advertising agencies typically pick up 15% of whatever the ad buy is. And then they usually will do a cost plus markup percent on graphics and things of that nature. So so that's so basically you would be developing a group of people that are going to come around you to fill in the areas like the graphic design,
Right.
the media buy, things of that nature, and you're going to take a percentage of that. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, it does.
And I think that's fair with your dad. And so maybe you're looking at 10% on graphics and 15% on media buy. Maybe you're looking at social media, and boy, that's a tough one to kind of price. But seems to me that a lot of those are running.
You mean
monthly
like
fees.
the paid fees? I mean the ad fees that you would put on the social media?
No, just the companies are now selling where they do posts and things. So would you be doing posts for your dad for your business?
I could.
Yeah.
Or I know their teenage son, let's pay him.
Well, you have him do it, and then you pay him, and then you mark it up to your dad. And then Grandpa gets to pay, right?
Yeah. Or another thing to think about is maybe your hourly rate. Whatever that might be, and then the number of hours you put into a job, and that you can do some research and figure out what a going hourly rate might be for the services you're offering.
But what David said as far as like mystery shopping, if they say going into what Sally said by the hour, if they say, hey, I charge $50 an hour, or that one charges $40 an hour, you gather that information. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, and actually, you have a pretty good in. You can call on behalf of your dad's business, and you can call different marketing companies and say, "My dad's our family business is X, Y, and Z.
Right.
We're considering a marketing firm. Can you walk me through your billing structures?" And they will gladly walk you through the billing structures. That's a perfectly acceptable way to do it, and then you'll get a feel for what they're charging.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, guys.
No worries.
Yeah. Well, good luck.
Best of luck. Yeah.
Okay.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was a great question. Good for her. Yeah, she should definitely go into business by herself. And I wonder if she knows what kind of legal structure she wants to do, but So we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll get into mistakes. Is a lawyer even needed? And then we'll wrap up the show, how you can get in contact with these special guest experts and some more. Okay, so make sure you keep it locked. It is Entrepreneurship 101. Hampton Rose Voices, Hot 91. Hot 91, your choice for hip hop and R&B soul. Time to wrap up the show, but before we go, really quick, let's find out some common mistakes that new entrepreneurs make.
Wow. Common mistakes. Okay. So I would say that one of the things they do is they kind of underestimate the market. They underestimate the value of their product, of what they're offering. So sometimes they tend to price it too low because they don't recognize all the real costs that they may have in doing business. We've talked about corporate structures and licenses and certifications and expenses that you're going to have. We've talked about insurance. Some of those insurance premiums are going to be pretty high. So if you don't build in those costs properly, it's hard to know what you got to charge at the other side. And so you can end up making, $5,000 on a project that actually cost you $6,000. Well, you're going to have to pony up that $1,000. And so I think one of the things is they tend to undervalue what they do, and it's probably one of the biggest ones.
Yeah, and I might say they overpromise and underdeliver. So that maybe speaks to starting small. Like, even though you may think you can accomplish everything in the world, it might be better to start off small, have very satisfied customers, because what we know today is dissatisfied customers talk a lot more than satisfied customers. And with social media, once your reputation gets out there in a negative way, it's really hard to get that back.
I would agree with that because, you know what, if you're dissatisfied, yes, you're going to leave a review in a heartbeat. But if you are satisfied, it's like, okay, ooh, I like this. And then you go about your way unless it's very exceptional, like it's up there. And I noticed that about myself. So I try to do that with certain businesses as well. If I'm satisfied, I would definitely leave a review. So great advice. All right. So as we're wrapping up the show, I I know that we had a couple of events, or you may have an event that Norfolk State University is having, Professor?
Yes, we do. As I'm looking at my calendar, I believe it is Thursday, April 12th. We're actually going to host the Hatch group here on campus, and they have a monthly, I'll say happy hour connection. It may be alcohol free, but we have been speaking to Hatch, and for those who don't know, this is a relatively new group that focuses on, and I'm reading here, empowering entrepreneurs and small business owners from every background, industry, and business stage as an incubator, innovation accelerator, and entrepreneurial educator. So it's a great opportunity to come, people from campus, people from the community, and talk about entrepreneurship, share ideas, share thoughts. So more information is coming on that, but you can put it on your calendar Thursday, April 12th.
Awesome. And I'm sure we'll have that on our Facebook page, the station's Facebook page, as it is being blasted on the Spartan Daily and things of that nature. Okay, so I want to thank my special guest experts, Professor Sally Sledge and David Nygaard. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you
for being here and answering our entrepreneurship questions. Yeah, we had a good time.
Yes, we did.
Of course, you can find this show again. You can listen again on Sunday at noon. We will be doing a rebroadcast. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Hampton Roads Voices. Become a subscriber. I know that as you're getting in and out of your car, you may have lost some spots or wanted to hear a particular part and you missed it. All of that is going to be available for you on our YouTube channel, Hampton Roads Voices. Like our page, Hot 91, WNSB Hot 91.1 FM. And follow your hostess. I have coined myself your public affairs princess. So go ahead and follow me at Kilogram, at KHILO Gram, KHILOGRAM. All right? Have a great one. This has been another episode of Hampton Roads Voices.